Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the FanScription podcast. I am Walter Benasiak, here with the writer of this month's episode, Rob Walker.
Hello.
This episode was titled, What If Harley Quinn Was in Batman 89? I put up a poll on my Twitter, and you guys voted for Harley in this one over Harley in Dark Knight, which would have been another interesting route to go down.
That was an option?
It was an option.
I would have preferred doing that one.
Well, the people have spoken, and 51% of them said that they wanted to
You're
see
like the
that.
mysterious voice in Mission Impossible. I just do what you hand me, so.
I thought you would have a lot of fun with this one because you're a much bigger Batman 89 fan than maybe I am. I'm a big fan of that movie, but you were around back then.
Yeah, it was a good challenge.
Yeah.
Thinking about it, I feel like Harley would have been probably easier to insert into Dark Knight. Well, maybe. I don't know.
It would have been interesting. I mean, like, both of these were sort of fun topics to go down, but I thought, personally, I was hoping for 89 to win because I'd love to see your take on it.
Well, 89 was tougher just because Harley didn't exist, so
Right.
I know there was no template.
As everyone has told us.
Oh, yeah, that was my favorite.
Like, we didn't know that.
No, my favorite were the people who would, like, the one comment that would just be like, Harley didn't exist yet, so it could never happen. Checkmate. And I'm like, we literally said that in the first minute of the video.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it was in the first line.
But you had to click on the video to actually reply, so
Right.
at least thanks for giving us that free ad revenue.
Appreciate it. But yeah, I thought you had a lot of fun with this one. It looked like you did anyway. I really liked how you inserted her into these scenes and kind of played off of, what's the character's name? I already forgot her name.
Alicia?
Alicia.
Nobody remembers Alicia.
Yeah, I know.
They only remember Alicia because Joker threw her out her window, apparently.
Apparently. But yeah, I like the route that you took with this. And a lot of the changes that you made were fun. And like adding her in there, it's not necessary. Like you said that, you know, in the episode, this movie is already kind of bloated.
If
having
you're
her in there was
asking
fun.
me honestly, I would actually say don't do it.
Sure.
But if you're just like, if I got an order from a studio like,
Yeah.
you must put Harley in this movie, then
Which
I'm like,
happens a lot.
I guess, yeah, it turns out that's happening right now, in fact.
Right.
Then I'm like, well, I guess this is how I would do it. And then I also made sure, like, I think my big thing was, like, not to completely saturate the thing with Harley, because I'm like, you could throw a lot more Harley in there, but yeah, as you mentioned, and as I said in the FanScription, the movie's so bloated with characters anyway. It's already like it's already a threesome with Joker, Vicky Vale, and Batman. And then if you really add Grissom into it, he's like a prime motivator. Like, he actually does things to get the plot rolling.
Right.
So there's other characters who do things to get the plot rolling. So I'm like, man, I wouldn't cut any of them. So then now you have to throw Harley in on top of it.
Right.
So I'd say don't do it. But this is like my stab in the dark. Well, how could you do it if you were forced to? So
Yeah, this wasn't one of the episodes where we're trying to improve the movie. This is just kind of like an alternate reality thing, which I think is a lot of fun.
I don't think this improves the movie at all.
No, I don't think so either. But it's fun to just to see what
It's a fun thought experiment.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you know, we had you went about it very practically, and we went and cast who actually would play Harley back then, and that was a lot of fun to discuss because we were going back and forth about that.
Truth be told, that was like literally the last thing that I was throwing in. I had the whole thing written out, and then I'm just like, oh, I suppose maybe we should cast who would be Harley, but I had the one I was gonna go with was I think the Ali Sheedy was a name that I was like looking at like. Yeah, I mean, it would have been 80s. It would have been post the Hughes films and, like, Short Circuit. And I'm like, and I saw her. She was in a Psych.
Yeah, you
and
talked
she
about
plays, like, a crazy person there. And I'm just like, and she's much older there. And I'm just like, man, I could have seen her in her day younger playing this kind of role. I'm like, I could see her as Harley. I think the only other one I had in mind just in the same vein was, like, Molly Ringwald was another name. There were a lot of big names that I was looking at, but, like, realistically speaking, they wouldn't have been available.
Sure.
So, and then I think it was you suggested
Lori Petty.
And I kind of sat there for a second. I'm like, oh, shit. Yeah. Like, it would be interesting because she had not been, I don't think she had been in anything yet.
She was just in TV.
Yeah, I mean, she had done TV work, but so this
stuff.
would be, like, her quote-unquote breakout role.
Yeah.
But I could see her. I like her. I like her in pretty much everything except for Tank Girl. That was the only thing I really hated her in. But looking at what she did in Tank Girl, it's more I hate that movie.
Yeah,
and
but
I
that
think
kind of attitude could carry
But the
over.
attitude she had in Tank Girl was like, yeah, you know what? Actually, I think I could see this. And she would have been youngish, but I think you could have made her look a little older in such a way that it might not have been 100% creepy. It should just be 80% creepy because Jack Nicholson is, you know.
It's the Joker. It's Jack Nicholson.
But,
it's fine. It's fine.
It's fine, darling.
You know, when you were asking me, like, you got any ideas for the casting Harley? And I was like, who do I think of when I think of 90s actresses? And I first thought of Penelope Ann Miller, of course. and then, but I was like, nah, she wouldn't fit it. And I was like, Gina Davis. I'm like, that would be weird. And then I thought of A League of Their Own. I was like, oh, Lori Petty. Lori Petty's perfect. There you go.
For some reason, it didn't cross my mind. I was still stuck trying to think of 80s actresses. The one that I'm like, man, the one that would have been probably a shoo-in for Tim Burton would have been Winona Ryder, but she would have been too young.
Right.
Like, at that stage in the game,
I
don't know how old she was in Beetlejuice, but I'm like, no, I couldn't see, because this still has to be somebody who's like a psychologist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw some people suggest Helena Bonham Carter. That would have been interesting.
I don't know. I don't think she was. Was she in American Projects back then?
I don't even know.
I would like Helena Bonham Carter would have worked if this was like, you know, late 90s, I think.
Yeah.
Like right after post Fight Club, I would have been really interested to see what she. But
sure.
I don't know in 1989 if that was like. I was trying to think realistically. I'm like, sure, if you want to cast this if you want to cast for The Dark Knight, Helena Bonham Carter, maybe.
Yeah. I did see some suggestions for Arleen Sorkin, who was the inspiration for Harley Quinn. A lot of people are pointing that out. That would have been, you know, an interesting route to go down. But she wasn't. I mean, she was in what daytime TV. And
yeah,
it wouldn't.
It wouldn't. I don't. Yeah, like that's hindsight is 2020.
Yeah,
because I'm like, sure, you could. Would that realistically be on anybody's radar? I was trying to be realistic with it. And I'm like. I don't really see her being cast in that. I'm not sure I see Laura Petty being cast either. So it's tough. Like, 'cause these are all hypothetical.
We're making this stuff up as we go along. So, she voiced Harley in the early Batman the Animated Series seasons, right? I'm pretty sure she did. Arleen Sorkin, I'm talking about. I'm 99% sure.
I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure. And then that passed on.
I'm not the world's biggest Harley person. So.
Right.
I enjoy the character a lot, but I know there's some people that's like. That's their character,
right?
Like they're so, and I'm just like I don't know much.
Right.
About
her popularity has blown up in the past. I guess a little bit before Suicide Squad, basically since the Arkham games. I think her popularity has really kind of exploded, and we'll get into talking about her. And the question about that is if she's overexposed, and we'll discuss that in a little while after we go into more about the FanScription episode. We got to pull in Brad Jones to voice Jack Nicholson Joker, who is so excited to do this.
I didn't even ask. He just said, "Oh, I'll do Jack for you."
Yeah.
So the funny thing about it is like he and Doug both do a pretty decent Jack. Though Doug gets the face down more.
Doug can do the eyebrows.
Yeah,
like
Doug
I can't do that.
Doug does the Keaton eyebrows well too. But the problem is I'm just like, well, crap. Then who am I gonna ask? Like, am I gonna have to? We gonna do like a real Joker thing? I break the pool cue in half. We're like, gonna have tryouts. But Doug went on vacation, so he was out of town. So I'm like, well, that made that easy.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought Brad did a really good job. He does kind of naturally almost sound like him, and he changes his voice a little bit.
I call it the Pan Nicholson, which the Pan Nicholson is that Nicholson that could also be like Christian Slater or why am I blanking? Ray Liotta. They all three kind of sound alike, so it's got that Pan Nicholson, Ray Liotta, Christian Slater sound. I think Doug kind of does it like that too, where I'm like, you could do either of those three.
And that would make sense. So we talked a little bit about her sort of taking over for the Alicia character, and what you did in there was really smart. I think integrating her in there and still giving her own little arc. She doesn't have a giant impact on the story until the very end, but I mean, she does have her own little arc going throughout it, and I love the ending where she's hanging on to the Joker and kind of pulls him down. I mean, I probably would have done the same thing if I was writing this episode. What
makes me laugh about that, though, is like the complaint about Batman. It's like, Batman doesn't even do it. He nearly loses the fight at the end. He nearly falls off a cliff and then just shoots Joker. And in this one, I even make it less Batman does shit. It's like Harley is the one dragging Joker down, kind of. Like it.
Right.
So, I don't know. It was interesting.
Yeah. I did want to talk about Harley's design in this. You worked with Anna, our great artist, to come up with the design for what she would look like if she was in the Batman '89 movie, and I thought she did a great job. She kind of reminds me of the.
She always does a good job. So.
Right, absolutely. But yeah,
amazing
you guys,
work as usual, Anna.
Absolutely. The collaboration there was great, and just seeing that she kind of looks like the Red Triangle gang from the Batman Returns movie. She kind of has that look to her.
I told her, I didn't give her an exact description. I didn't even sketch anything out. I gave her a bunch of pictures, and I said, in this area.
Okay.
And I said, if we're thinking Harley Quinn, I'm like, I don't want the Batman the Animated Series. I'm like, it has to look like Tim Burton would have come up with it. So pretentious.
Sure. The striped stockings, perfect.
I said, think Beetlejuice. Think of the outlandish costumes. Some of them in like Beetlejuice, like even some of Lydia's costumes were pretty out there. And then I gave her I said like a little ornate. Like, so I gave like images of like these Venetian like carnival outfits with like these sort of carnival style masks, and they're all like really ornate and fancy. I'm like, think like kind of European or something, like over the top, because the Joker.
Can see that influence in
there. The Joker's supposed to be like an artiste.
Right.
I'm an artist. So the idea was that he's turning her into another like work of art. And the thing is, if Tim Burton directed, I'm like, oh, this would look like a Tim Burton costume.
For sure.
Like it would have to. And she did a wonderful job. Like
absolutely.
Coming up with stuff.
I like that you had her have the smile basically.
Yeah.
That would have been horrifyingly appropriate in the movie if it actually happened.
Well, the thing about the movie is the reveal of Alicia is actually really horrifying.
It
is. Like Danny Elfman gives it like these creepy strings, like ooh, this is like scary. So I'm like, I wanted that effect, and so I thought, and then there is something really creepy about the smile, like so I'm like. Yeah, like just that she had plastic surgery done to give her like kind of the same smile or something. That Joker's like, I'm a work of art, now you, darling.
Right. Yeah, it was a great idea, I think, to incorporate her in that sense. I also love that she has red hair, which is very different. We don't see Harley with red hair, so that was a cool thing that Anna did, I think. That wasn't your idea? That was her just sort of going off and doing it?
I forget.
Okay.
Here's the thing. I don't want. I will just say I forget. And if it was me, whatever. Good on me. If it was Anna, good on you. I honestly don't remember. I'll just give Anna the credit because my guess is it. I think maybe it was her, but
sure.
I don't remember in the descriptions I sent her if I said red hair.
I got you. Because Harley's very much a blonde, always seen as a blonde when she doesn't have her the Harley Quinn outfit on and everything. So that was just a cool change I thought that was made to this as well.
I think I said her initial description I said dark hair at least. So before she transformed. So I think so. Like I don't know.
Right.
I can't. If Anna came up with it, great. I honestly don't remember whose idea that was.
And before she becomes Harley Quinn, she's still shown as Dr. Harleen Quinzel, which I know you love the name.
I couldn't, even as I was reading that for the FanScription, I was like, oh my God, these names.
Right. So she's kind of this psychiatrist for the mob and sort of, as you said, sort of keeping the soldiers in line in Grissom's mob or whatever you want to call it. I thought that was really smart to incorporate her that way.
It was sort of an analyze. I liked the fact that she was a psychologist. I feel that's very, very important to her original character.
Yeah.
So I'm like, God, like you got to keep that somehow. But I'm like, then how do we do this though if Grissom gets jealous of her and this and that? So I came up, I'm like, okay, well, she's a mob psychologist. And I threw in a couple throwaway lines about how like she was shady. Like the cops like, hey, isn't that shady psychiatrist?
Yeah,
like maybe she had worked at Arkham, got involved with the criminals. So she has this reputation of like a disgraced psychiatrist. So the only job she can get is probably working with Grissom. And yeah, I mean, Grissom probably has a lot of nuts on his team, so, I figured it was like The Sopranos or something where it's like, and in Jack's case, it's just like, this guy's crazy, I need somebody to check him out. Like, and I think with Grissom, it was, he was sending Jack there to get her professional opinion because he wants somebody to take over, and he's like, if this guy's too nuts, I can't, I'm not going to give it to him, so she was supposed to legitimately report in and basically say this guy's out of his mind. Like you can't but instead they end up falling in love, and like I figured like this was like Grissom's girlfriend on the side too, so she's doing double duty.
Right.
And I figured she was actually with Grissom just for the free gravy train, the money train.
Yeah.
And that there's something about Jack that excites her way more. Not the fact just that he's younger, because compared to Jack Palance, like the age difference wasn't that immense.
Right.
Because it's Jack Nicholson. Yeah, but
I love the voice, by the way. Your Jack Palance voice, I was cracking up editing this so many times. It was great. So kudos on
Jack,
that.
maybe we can cut a deal. Cut a deal.
I love how he puts his hair. Like, it's so good. So good.
So I wrote it so, and this is, I think, important to her character, that something about Jack Napier excites her. Like, there is a danger element.
Right.
And I think there's that line I threw in where it's just like, you know, is that your professional diagnosis or whatever? And she's like, they don't have a word for it. Like the mystery behind him fascinates. Like, it's like she likes a good head case.
Right.
And I think it like excites her and this and that. And it leads to this what is totally an abusive relationship.
For sure.
I didn't realize that was ever a question. Like, some people are like, well, you know, it's an abusive relationship. I'm like, well, yeah.
It's always been kind of that way.
I don't know when that became a thing, like stating the bleeding obvious, but like, of course it's an abusive relationship. I don't know, but yeah, so that's where I was going with it, basically.
I got you. I want to just talk about maybe you seeing Batman 89 for the first time, because I've talked with Jim about this, and he talked about how, you know, grand that summer was. I think Ghostbusters 2 was out that same year, and a couple other like really big movies.
That was Last Crusade.
Last Crusade,
that was another
right.
huge one. That was a great year.
Yeah,
for
like
movies.
talk
I think
to
Roger
me about
Rabbit. I think Roger Rabbit
89,
was the same year.
probably. Yeah, just talk to me a little bit about your experience going to see it, like for the first time and everything. I mean, because this was a big event back then.
I had never seen anything like it. I didn't get to see RoboCop on the big screen, so there's like a few like harder edge movies. The Batman's like PG-13, but it plays like it almost should have been a soft R.
Right. How old were you? About like 10 or so?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to say that summer I would have been 10 or 11 maybe.
Okay.
And like it just kind of...
It's like perfect age.
Yeah, it blew our minds. I was just like... It was actually like the first time I saw it, I remember it was overwhelming. Like, it was just so much to be... I was like, whoa, and it was so dark, because our only exposure was the 1960s comic, and like I wasn't really reading like The Dark Knight Returns or any of that. Like, that would have come out, I think, when I was like 7. So yeah, it was really mind blowing. The ads were everywhere.
Right, I remember hearing like there was billboards of just the Bat's logo just everywhere, all over the place.
I'm really trying to think of a film that was marketed as well. Independence Day comes to mind. I don't even like that movie that much, but Independence Day was like marketed in such a way where it's like, wow, you couldn't get away from it.
Yeah.
The Dark Knight, like when they did the ads for The Dark Knight, it felt like it was just everywhere. And Heath Ledger and the Joker and why he's so serious and him painted, like that was everywhere. Like, that's the closest thing, but like nothing to me was marketed as well as Batman, where it's like everybody on the planet just wanted to see it. Like, and there was just such a mystery around it, and I think that's because Warner Brothers flipped their shit because they thought Michael Keaton and people are hating. Everybody was hating on Michael.
Right,
so
there's a backlash before the internet, which
they
is
needed
hilarious.
to prove themselves. So they had that little teaser trailer. It was just Batman fighting, and it was dark. I remember they were showing clips on the late night shows of the big clip they were always showing was driving Vicky Vale to the Batcave. So you have like the Danny Elfman music, like this big, and then like the Batmobile like through the leaves, and like everything's like dark and mysterious. And where are we going? And he's just like staring at her, and it's like I just remember thinking, I gotta see this film.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
this really just looks amazing. So no, the movie blew me away. I loved it.
That's great. I mean, it kind of inspired, I think, a lot of what we're getting now with the big superhero movies and everything. That was kind of the first one. I guess you could say Superman, but there's a long gap after the Superman movies.
And Superman was a different tone. Superman was epic.
Yeah,
people forget that that's like a Mario Puzo story, and it feels like it has this grand saga vibe to it. So both those movies, but it was definitely lighter in tone. Like, nobody had seen a dark comic book movie like this. The closest we got would be things like Verhoeven's, like, I think RoboCop, which I think came out beforehand.
I don't remember.
Well, you weren't,
right.
But
I wasn't alive yet, Rob.
I'm sorry, you child. But yeah, generally speaking, like, that was the first to kind of do that sort of thing. So
I think we owe a lot, in terms of the good and the bad to this movie, because it just created this media superstorm, and that's kind of what a lot of these movies have become since then. The highest grossing movies in Hollywood are these films now. So we owe a lot, like I said, for better or worse, to Tim Burton's original Batman movie.
I think for better.
For sure. I think for better, but I mean,
you wouldn't have
also.
You wouldn't have had The Dark Knight without it.
No, absolutely not. So would you?
You wouldn't have had Batman the Animated Series.
No, I know, and I love that over everything. Batman is the animated series. So at the very least, I thank Tim Burton for creating that. I wanted to ask you this. So we've been talking a lot about covering the other Burton Batman movies. I mean, there's only one other one, but continuing on with maybe doing a Batman Forever if Tim Burton directed Batman Forever. I was thinking of you handling those other movies because you have a deeper tie to them. If you were to do a Batman Returns, and I know you have some ideas about what you would want to do with that, would you want to carry Harley over? Is that something that would interest you, or would you just say, no, I want to just tackle Batman Returns as it is? She would fit perfectly into the Red Triangle Gang. She would be perfect to be like the leader. I'm just saying. Like, she already looks like it. I think that she would be like a better fit than Penguin would be as the leader of that gang.
I feel like I would try to do, and I mean, we've got enough time. Like, we could do it. I would try to do two separate ones. One would be like trying to fix some things in Batman Returns, given the movie we're presented, and the other would be like, let's follow what we started with the Harley thing in the first one, because that is an interesting idea. I think she would fit much better in Batman Returns because of the Red Triangle Circus Gang.
Right.
But see, the thing is, I feel Penguin's the weak link in Batman Returns, so I'm like, well, do you need a Red Triangle Circus Gang if you don't have a Penguin? Or
I do love the Penguin in Batman Returns.
I like him. I feel his story is very muddled. So it's like, I think Burton wanted this like Phantom of the Opera kind of thing where it's like, no, you're supposed to be sorry for him. Like, the movie sends him off like we're supposed to feel sorry for him. I'm like, he literally was just about ready to drown a whole bunch of babies.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, and it's not like, oh, he decided to do that after he was disgraced. I'm like, no, he was writing those names down from day one. I'm like, this was always his plan, and he just got sidetracked.
The only time he's sympathetic is in the very beginning at the very end, and that's all because of Pee Wee Herman. So thanks, Pee Wee.
Yeah, there's...
It's all Pee Wee's fault.
There's some things I would like to fix about him. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, she could run the Red Triangle Circus Gang. I think the more interesting idea, if you're going to throw her into it, you've got to have her and Catwoman.
Yeah.
Like, that seems like
that
a
interplay
perfect...
would be really fun.
Yeah, and I would do two separate... Because I enjoyed... there was like an episode of Batman the Animated Series where it was her and Poison Ivy.
Oh, yeah, that's a big team in the comics and stuff. They've gone over that. They almost pitched a series for that, too. It didn't get off the ground.
And the funny thing is I'm more with Harley than I am with Poison Ivy.
Is okay, but she's not the most.
Yeah, so I feel like it'd be a more interesting team up with like Catwoman. But yeah, I feel like you could do something with that, and I'm like, I don't know if then you need the Penguin. So I'd probably do two different takes on Batman Returns, and
yeah, that would be fun to see your thoughts on it. And like we've been saying since the beginning of the show, we are going to do a Tim Burton Batman 3 eventually, so that'll be fun to tackle and see where we would have gone with that. I think Two-Face is definitely going to be probably a major player in that. I don't think that's really a secret. I think that's kind of where they were going with it. Even beforehand, before Burton turned it over.
I mean, that's something when I tackle Batman Returns that I want to do is both fixing the Penguin's character, because in an earliest draft he was supposed to be Max Schreck's long lost brother, and I'm like, it doesn't fix the movie by default, but it makes a lot more sense. I'm like, oh, like this could have really connected better. And the other thing is, I would want to throw Billy D. Williams back into it as Harvey Dent.
Yes, for sure.
And I would either like try to find a way to turn him into Two-Face by the end of the movie, or at least accelerate that plot to such a way that when you bring him into Batman 3, Batman Forever, that it makes sense.
Right.
Instead of, because like Dent, well, particularly they changed the actor, which was odd.
Harley Jones too.
Yeah,
and his best performance.
Yeah, he's terrible, but at least he's hilariously terrible. And the other thing is, he kind of just comes out of nowhere again. Like, I think some people forgot Dent was even in Tim Burton's Batman. Like, if you're not a hardcore fan, some people are like, oh yeah, I guess Harvey Dent was in that. Like, people forget Billy D. Williams is like Harvey Dent.
Was there ever a plan that do you remember hearing rumors about why he wasn't in Batman Returns? Because he was set up in Batman, and it seems like we would have progressed more.
I have no idea. I feel like...
Was he supposed to... I thought maybe you told me this, that he was supposed to be Christopher Walken's character at some point, or something like that, or they changed him around, like, in the middle of the script process?
I forget. But Returns had a number of... Returns was like the first Batman, had a number of weird production problems. I think part of it is different script writing team. So I feel like Sam Hamm's version would have tried to tie everything back to the 89 Batman. Burton had a different script writing team for Returns. I think Sam Hamm was dropped. So basically what happened was they're just like, well, we'll do our own thing. So, Vicky Vale and Alfred in the Batcave get a casual reference, but otherwise everything else just feels different, including like Harvey Dent isn't really in it. There's all, right? Obviously a Knox character there that has 4 lines, but it's not Robert Wool. Hey, you gotta feel pretty bad. Your parents 86 you, like that guy with the mustache. I'm like, that's supposed to be Knox. I'm like, you could just tell that was meant for Robert Wool.
I forgot that he wasn't in it either. That's so weird because they were major players in that first movie.
I mean, the Anton Furst, one of the most brilliant production designers ever, died. So they got Bo Welch, and Bo Welch is also amazing. I'm not dissing on Bo Welch, but the production design feels different. Just everything about Returns feels different, and in some ways, I like Returns in a way because
Returns feels more gothic almost to me.
Well, it
sometimes.
feels, you know what it is? It's like the line from Alien, just like, I admire its purity. Like, it's pure Burton. Like, there's no studio intervention at all in that movie. It's messier. Oh, it's a hell of a lot messier. But I'm like, you can't look at this movie and be like, oh yeah, well, the studio made that, this, it is. I'm like, it is pure Burton, and it was like his own, it felt like kind of his own team that he kind of like put together, and I'm like, for better or worse, it's like that is the pure Burton movie.
And then because of that, we got Batman Forever, and then eventually Batman and Robin, and it kind of started the downfall. It was kind of because of Batman Returns' very, very dark tone, so that's another thing where you could kind of create a schism.
Oh, the poor children.
It works my fragile little mind.
Like, that was it.
We can't make toys for McDonald's with this.
That's exactly what the studio executive said.
Yeah, and then we got Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. Well, anyway, we wanted to do this episode because the Harley Quinn / Birds of Prey movie had just come out, which is not doing so well at the box office. They changed the name, but I saw the movie and I really liked the movie. I liked the movie quite a bit.
I haven't seen it yet.
Did it interest
I was getting
you?
I was getting increasingly disinterested when I was seeing that it was just basically a Harley movie.
Right, and let's get into that. So,
I am not, and let me give you the grains of salt first. I am a Harley fan. I am a Harley fan as one of the great side characters.
Yeah.
Greatest side characters ever written. Notice I said side character. I like this increase in Harley as her own thing. If that's your thing, fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. That's just not my thing, where I'm like, I always thought she felt better working off another character.
100%.
So there's that. And then the other thing is, I have no issue with Birds of Prey. I didn't read Birds of Prey. I didn't follow it all that much. So it's not something that I'm just like, oh, well, I'm obsessed with Birds of Prey. I have to see this movie. So in both cases, that movie was in a position where I'm like, I'll get around to it, but I don't have a super strong desire to see it because it looks like it's going to be all Harley, and then what Birds of Prey are in it just doesn't seem. So I'm like, well, I'm not going to learn anything new about the Birds of Prey, I guess, because I would just rather see a Birds of Prey movie because I'm like, I don't know much about them. I want to see what is it about Birds of Prey, like, and instead
kind of get like the origin of the Birds of Prey characters, but also through Harley's kind of perspective. I mean, we still see them, and they still have their own scenes and everything, but it is definitely a split focus with more on Harley. So it was an interesting choice that they wanted to make kind of this girl team up movie.
Doug's convincing me to see it. Like, keeps trying
it's
to get
good.
me because of Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor, yes.
He's like, no, you just have to see it for him.
He's
but
so good.
That tells me something, though, when you're like, you know what, you have to see this female movie for the guy. And I'm like, yeah, this is telling me something that maybe this film has
He's not the only
issues.
good thing in the movie. Rosie Perez is great as Montoya. Like, there's a lot of really good performances in the movie. I think you'll like it. Also, I want to say that I mentioned this in the Awesome Comics
I don't think
episode.
I'll hate it. It's just like, am I going to rush to see it?
Sure. But there is a lot of production design that did kind of remind me of the Burton movies. And you'll see, if you eventually see the movie, you'll see what I'm talking about. But that was kind of the most fun thing about it, besides some of the performances, was like the different areas that they came up with, and it looked much more gothic, and like a lot of fog was there. It's really cool. So I think that you'll enjoy the look of it at least in some parts. But yeah, we were talking about if Harley Quinn is overexposed now, and you're saying that she's more fit to be a side character. She's just not your favorite in terms of a character on her own, and that's definitely the way that they've been going recently. I think since the Arkham games, it seems like there's been this explosion in popularity for Harley Quinn in terms of cosplay, and then Suicide Squad came out, and that exponentially turned that up. So
I'm not going to say I don't get it. I do. She's like this punk character.
Yeah.
It's just, I get why people like her as a character. I'm just not sure that translates well. She needs to be a main character. You can be a side character and still have a huge fan base, and
she did anyway.
And I feel like she improves things as a side character instead of just being shoehorned in as a main character.
Right. As they go along with the character and add things about her backstory and flesh her out more, she is interesting. I do like Margot Robbie's version of her.
Oh, I do too.
There's a lot of layers.
This is the one good thing in Suicide Squad.
Right. There's a lot of good layers for her. So
it wasn't Jared Leto.
Yeah. You see the back of his head in the new movie, but not his face at all, which is pretty funny.
Thank God.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story. But I do think that Harley is strong enough to carry some things on her own. I think they really should have just kind of went for it with this and made a Harley Quinn movie.
That's the. I mean,
see
that's
if it
what
worked
I think.
or not.
Or made a Birds of Prey.
Or made a Birds of Prey movie, right?
Again, it's like if you want to sprinkle some seasoning into your Birds of Prey movie and go like, hey, well, we'll have Harley for a couple scenes, like a fun like cameo or even like something very much on the side. But I think to have like I kind of feel a little legitimately sorry for like Birds of Prey fans who are just like probably wanted a movie and then they're just like, what's this Harley film?
Right. And it's also not all the Birds of Prey. I mean, Barbara Gordon's not in it. Obviously, she's the Oracle character and she's not in this at all. So she's a huge part of it.
Because that was a big question because I'm like,
she's not in
wasn't
it
Barbara
whatsoever.
Gordon? Because like, again, I'm not a huge Birds of Prey, but I'm like, wasn't Barbara Gordon with that thing as an
that was after she was paralyzed and stuff too.
Yeah.
So like that's a whole other story.
As an outsider, I've just been very confused as an outsider looking in as somebody who like didn't read a whole ton of Birds of Prey, and I just felt like I feel I'm like getting slowly annoyed just having not even been a Birds of Prey person that somehow this doesn't seem like Birds of Prey, and I'm like, and I should be the last person to know or complain about it because if I'm like, man, even if I know that I'm just like this doesn't feel right.
Sure.
But if it's a good Harley movie, great. It's good Harley. Then just make a good Harley movie.
Well, yeah, why not just make a good Harley movie? Right.
I would go see a Harley movie.
Yeah, I absolutely would too.
I would go see a Birds of Prey movie. I wouldn't. I don't know if I'm in the mood for like, here's a mashup because we want to just cover all bases.
Well, I know it was a calculated risk on Warner Brothers' part, I think, because they've been doing this with the DC movies lately. They did it with the Joker movie. They did it with Shazam. I think they put a lot more money into Aquaman, but I mean that paid off. But they sort of keep the budget to a little under $100 million, I think, which is pretty low for the big superhero movies. And then if it makes money like Shazam did, or like Joker made over $1 billion freaking dollars, then they make so much money off it. And they did the same thing with this. And I like how they're experimenting at least with these other properties. I mean, Birds of Prey was not the centerpiece of this movie, but at least they're introducing these characters who are really great characters that we can maybe explore later.
And only you can answer this, but this was just the vibe I was getting reading about it and seeing the trailers. How experimental was it actually, and how much does it just feel like studio interference, the studio just doing their normal shtick? And
no,
does
it
definitely
really
feel experimental?
Experimental, as far as a superhero movie or, comic book movie can really be. It's not like Sin City or anything, but they do play with time. It's disjointed in a good way. Continuities, I'm not continuity, but everything, the narrative is
so I thought the idea of going with Shazam was way out there for something, particularly for DC, where it's like,
no, they
really
it made money.
We're gonna do, yeah, well, no, exactly, and Joker I thought was way out there for where the direction they took
Right.
it.
This
Birds
is
of
not
Prey, at
as
least by the-
drastic as that.
Yeah, Birds of Prey by the trailers, I'm like, God, this just looks like Suicide Squad or any of the others.
It is kind of like, and that's what I said when I came out of it, was kind of like, this is what Suicide Squad was trying to do, and this kind of accomplished that, I think.
I would have preferred like a Harley movie that would have been more like experimental, like something like Fight Club or like just something kind of like crazy and going out there. Or even, I can't stand the film, but like, Tank Girl, like I'll give it this. I'm like, that was out there. This just looked like, at least to me, just on the outside looking in, just looked to me like, I'm like, this looks like any other movie. Like, I don't know if this looks to me like it's taking any risk.
People are complaining about the marketing for it too, and it wasn't. Is
it
the
really
best.
marketed poorly?
Oh, that's what I've heard people say. I don't think it was really that badly marketed. I mean, you still get
My
kind of
plan
what's
is to
advertised.
check it. Like, I want to check it out before it goes away. So,
No, I definitely would suggest it. I
had
definitely
to
would say see it in
see.
the
The funny thing is, I wanted to see it last night because I'm at a movie theater. I'm like, I would much rather sit through Harley, even if it's not
you saw
great,
Sonic
because I
last
saw
night?
Sonic, and I'm just like,
I'm seeing that later today. Hopefully, I'll
Yeah,
like
I would have rather seen Harley Quinn than Sonic, like easily. So, and that was a movie that took no risks. Like that one, if I think maybe Harley's problem might be it ends up taking less risks, Sonic took zero. So.
Well, in any case, I would like to see DC and Warner Brothers push forward with these kind of different characters.
I do too. I hope it, and that's what bothers me about Harley and Birds of Harley Quinn : Birds of Prey is that I hope it doesn't stop them from more female character centered movies. I mean, I know we've got Wonder Woman coming out, so
that's going to be a
good.
guaranteed hit. So
I would love to see like a real Catwoman movie.
Catwoman movie
that
would be
piece
great.
of crap we got 10, 15 years ago or whatever with Halle Berry.
Yeah, no, a real Catwoman movie.
See, that's mine. A lot of people are like Harley Quinn. Catwoman is mine. I'm like, I love Catwoman.
Yeah,
it's
Catwoman
one of my
would be
favorite
fun
characters.
for sure to really take a deep dive into, and she exists within the Batman universe somehow. Don't pretend that Batman doesn't exist or something. Just focus on her, and you could have a really strong story because she's a great character.
Yeah. But so I hope they don't stop doing that because it didn't make any money, and because the lesson they always seem to learn, it's like, it's this, nobody's gonna see this, therefore let's. And I'm like, no, you sucked at doing it. That was the problem. Like, it's not there's women, there's dames in our that's the problem. It's like, no, the problem is the movies.
Right. I always point to Guardians of the Galaxy. Nobody knew what Guardians of the Galaxy was unless you were a diehard comic book fan, and that has become an absolute phenomenon. People loved that film, both those films.
I would point to
those
Shazam.
characters.
I know Shazam didn't make quite as much.
It didn't make Guardians of the Galaxy.
No,
money,
and
but
it didn't make quite
turn
as
a
much
profit.
money as DC was probably hoping, but it totally turned in a profit.
Yeah.
And it was one of those where I'm like, Shazam? Really? And I came out of that movie going like, this movie was great. Like, I had no idea it was going to be that good.
And now we got the Rock Black Adam movie that's coming out.
Yes.
So we'll see what's going to happen there. I mean, The Rock's already a draw by himself, but now you put him in a DC movie, you're guaranteed to make some kind of profit there, but how big is it going to be? Black Adam's an interesting character, so it's going to be fun.
I don't know. I want to see them get crazier and experimental. I think Joker...
go more that way.
Shazam and Joker, and they're both such polar opposites. It's like more kid-friendly movie than Joker, which is like, fuck.
I know.
And I'm like, I want more of that. I'm like, go for broke in every direction.
give us
just
more
don't
variety.
give us, as I quoted last time with Sonic, but as Duckman would refer to it, bland, flavorless, mush. Don't give us that. Like, and that's my worry with some of these films. Like, don't go back into that DC. That's what you were doing, and it didn't work.
They've been on the upswing for a while now, I think, since Justice League. So
I
I don't think they're going to stop.
Even if this doesn't do well, I still think they're on the upswing. And like DC, generally speaking, is exciting me more than Marvel right now.
Yeah.
So somebody was like, "What shows are you excited for to watch on TV and Marvel?"
Disney
I'm like,
Plus?
on Disney Plus. I'm like, none of them.
I'm excited for Falcon
I'm
Winter
sorry.
Soldier. I mean, have you seen any of the previews for WandaVision? Because that looks freaking insane.
That's the one I think I'm most interested in checking out.
because it's just off the wall nuts. It looks like the entire time.
But none of them I'm just like, I must. Mandalorian, I was like, I must.
Well, of course, but that's Star Wars. It's a separate thing.
But no, I'm just saying there's a difference between I must see this, and I'm like, I'll check it out. Like,
yeah. Last night, as of the recording of this, Matt Reeves, the director of The Batman, the movie that's coming out starring Robert Pattinson, released a camera test.
Why aren't we full of ourselves now? The Batman.
The Batman. He released what he called a camera test on Vimeo, which is pretty funny. So the link, DC's sharing out a Vimeo link, which I thought was pretty funny. But it shows the bat suit a little bit and shows Robert Pattinson in the cowl in this very red light. Did you get to see it?
I haven't seen. No.
So they
just went out last night.
Just last night. So they played.
I had to
this
record the
theme.
damn Sonic review with Doug, and then I went to bed.
It's less than a minute, and they play a little theme that sounds pretty cool. It looks just like the Arkham game suit with those gray plates and everything. So that'll be.
Don't look at me. I didn't have a problem with the casting.
No, I'm not saying like isn't this bad. I'm not saying that.
No, I'm just saying like it's. If it's good, I wouldn't be surprised. That was a lot of.
Matt Reeves is a good director.
We go through this again and again, and then when will people learn? Just because it's not what you're used to does not mean it's gonna suck. We went through this with Michael Keaton, Heath Ledger, Joaquin Phoenix is the Joker. The only one so far that's disappointed me is Jared Leto.
Right,
it's a good track record
for sure. I mean, the only thing that I have an issue with when they cast these really well-known actors is that it takes away from the character a little bit. I mean, when we have someone like Christian Bale who was acting since he was a kid, he wasn't like this household name. He was American Psycho. He was like, this guy you saw in these indie movies before he took over Batman. So
it's kind of funny because Christian Bale is probably my least favorite.
I love Christian Bale. But, the point is
I don't hate him. I think he's fine. But if you give me a ranking of Batmans, he's somewhere in the middle for me.
Right, but he didn't distract from the character. I thought Ben Affleck, as good as he was, at least in the Batman v Superman movie, sort of took away from that because he's this big celebrity. And we know Robert Pattinson from Twilight.
Disagree.
It's hard. That's just what I think. I think it takes away a little bit.
It's more on you, though.
No, I've seen other people talk about this.
Well, no, not just. But that's like, it's a celebrity, therefore it's distracting. I'm like, I think that's your guys' reaction. I thought he was like Affleck was fine as Batman.
I didn't. No, I had no problem with him once I saw the movie. But it's just that you kind of start from below zero almost when you cast someone who's already so super well known. And in Pattinson's case, he's so well known for the Twilight movies. He's done everyone says he's a great actor, and I believe him. I saw The Lighthouse; he was great. He's done all these indie movies that are really good, but everyone knows him from Twilight. So it's like he has to break away from that, and it is kind of distracting at first. And I just want someone to be cast in Batman or a Superman role, and we kind of got that with Henry Cavill, where we don't know much about them beforehand. It's just a blank slate. We can go in, okay, this is the new Superman. What is he got? He's got a couple indie movies I could check out. All right, he's really good. It's not like, the freaking Twilight guy is Batman or whatever.
A couple things. Well,
and I'm not saying that he's not going to be good. I'm sure he's going to be good. Matt Reeves is a great director, and he's a really good actor. So I'm sure it's going to turn out fine.
We got Henry Cavill. He came out of not nowhere, but like
Tudors. I don't know what else he was in.
Yeah. So he comes from there. And how did that work out for those movies? How was that?
It's not his fault.
Exactly. Yeah. But there's nothing. But nor is it a fantastic performance. I'm just
talking about the character.
Yeah, but nor is it a fantastic performance. I love Henry Cavill in everything but Superman,
I
Man
liked
of
him
Steel.
in Justice League, which is funny because he was actually trying to be the real Superman.
He got a little better in Justice League, but so and there are other people. There's tons of people like me who's like didn't give two shits about the Twilight movies and like completely forgot that he was even in them because like I've seen only 2 of those films.
Yeah.
I saw the first one and then I saw the last one, which Doug dragged me to both basically.
Right.
And so much of those movies were forgettable to me that I wouldn't even associate with it. And so I think there's a huge contingent like, oh my God, because he was in Twilight. If you're my generation, I'm 40 years old. What the hell was I doing going seeing a Twilight movie? I think there's a lot of people more my age that are just like, who cares? Like, I wouldn't have even given a crap, because I'm like, I didn't see Twilight really all that much anyway.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe it'll be distracting, but
once we see footage, it goes away. But all this uproar that happens beforehand. Just if you cast someone who's not that well known, people aren't going to freak out as much. People will still freak out no matter what. This is the internet age. But it's not going to be like, oh, he can't do it. Ah!
But you're forgetting the number one rule of all studios. We've got to have money.
Batman is the draw, not the actor playing him.
And the thing is, if you have an actor that's going to cause controversy, you're going to get people hate watching it or at least curious.
I don't think it really would have that big of an impact on the bottom line of the movie. People are going to go see it.
It's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt the movie though.
No, I don't think at the end of the day it's
I
going to
think
hurt
any
the movie. No,
publicity,
people are going to see
any
it.
publicity is good publicity.
Right, for sure.
Um,
So I am looking forward to that, though. I mean, it's going to be fun to dive back into it's been described as more of a detective-based Batman and everything. So I'm excited to see more footage of that.
The only reason I didn't like the casting is I liked Batfleck, and I wanted to see him in a good movie, and this maybe has more of a chance to be a good movie. So,
yeah,
but
it definitely does.
that's it. Otherwise, I'm fine with the casting.
Have you seen the Planet of the Apes movies, the new ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. So,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, if that's the litmus test.
No, I
bored.
really liked it. They got, how do I put it? They got better as they went
still
along.
like the first one, but yeah,
the
they
first
did
one was
improve.
the first one was fine.
Yeah,
but I was
I
getting amazed as they went along. I'm like, man, I'm really getting into these, and I thought it was kind of a slow start. So yeah, no, I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see where.
Were we
where
supposed
they
to
go
be talking
with
about
it.
Harley Quinn?
We were, but we're going off on tangents and stuff. It's still Batman. She's still a
But,
Batman character.
Yeah, no, I do you think she's overexposed?
Do I think Harley's overexposed? I think maybe a little bit, but I mean, people like Harley Quinn, and she's a good enough character at least where you can, add elements like we were talking about earlier, add elements to her background and stuff to make her interesting. And Margot Robbie is a great actress to portray her, so
If you evolve the character
okay.
enough.
yeah. And she's also got that
I think
DC
it can
streaming
work.
cartoon series that's
Yeah.
out right now as well.
If you're able to evolve and write the character well enough and evolve the character enough, I think it could work. I just get worried that I don't want to see them launch face first into it without any sort of plan,
Yeah.
and then we just get what feels like just filler stuff or randomness, or you're just like, we don't want to Star Wars it. Like, so if you,
Speaking of,
so if you want to like evolve that character to make her a main character. I just don't want to see a secondary character taken and this is like, well, we'll just throw her as the star and everything will just work out magically. I'm like, no, you better have a plan and an idea of what this character actually is, because
right.
she wasn't intended to be a main character.
I think they've done that enough, at least in this new Birds of Prey Harley Quinn movie. And I haven't seen the cartoon, but a lot of people really like that show on the DC streaming service. So
I check that out. Everybody's talking about it.
yeah, everyone's talking about how funny. I keep seeing Facebook ads for it, and everything's bleeped out.
Again, I'm not the world's biggest Harley Quinn person, but I'm like, well, if everybody's talking about it, I gotta like take a look at it.
Yeah, I got to see how we could check that out. We're going to wrap up there in terms of the Harley Quinn stuff. Great job as usual, and stay tuned for more of that stuff. The Tim Burton Batman fanscriptions, I think we'll definitely be going into that later this year. As for next month, we're going to be starting, or actually this month because it's already February, we're going to be doing 2 episodes per month from now on. So they're not always going to be the standard narrative ones. I mean, we'll at least get one of those per month, but sometimes they might be like an editorial or something like that. But you will be getting 2 fanscription episodes per month, so double the fanscription for the same price.
Double your pleasure.
Which is free. So I hope you enjoy that. I'm handling this next one, actually the next 2. It's a 2-parter. And we were talking about Star Wars just a minute ago. The Clone Wars is coming back for season 7 towards the end of this month. So I put up that poll a while back, and it was the one that actually won was what if Qui-Gon Jinn raised Anakin Skywalker or trained Anakin Skywalker. So it's basically him surviving the fight with Darth Maul, and he's in the rest of the prequel movies. So I've got 2 episodes for that. The first one is covering Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, and the final one is about Revenge of the Sith. So a lot of stuff's going on. You're voicing Count Dooku in this, so that's exciting.
Dooku.
We had a lot of fun talking about Count Dooku's name the other night, which was great.
Doug kept in his Liam Neeson calling me Dookie. It's Dooku, it's Dooku.
It's Dooku, and you know it's Dooku.
Search your feelings, Obi-Wan. You know it to be true.
It's going to be a lot of fun to hear you guys' reaction to that. Hopefully you like it.
Doug's Liam Neeson, by the way, is actually strangely on point. I
It
had
is,
no
it's
idea
good.
he could do it that well.
You know how he gets into...
You were casting me. You cast me as Liam Neeson
Right.
first, which I'm like, okay, I can do that.
Uh-huh.
And then Doug comes in, he's like, yeah, I'm playing Christopher Lee. I'm like, how's that going to work? He goes, I don't know. I'm going to see. I'm like,
Right.
we came up to you, and I'm like, just so you know, I actually do like a much better Christopher Lee.
sure.
And Doug says that he can't really do it at all. And you're like, oh, okay. And then we switched it up.
Right, because originally I was just gonna have you play both characters, but I was thinking I don't want the same voice because they interact a lot in there, so I didn't want you to voice the same both of those characters. But you were great as Christopher Lee. Doug
thank you.
You know what, Doug, getting into the character of Qui-Gon Jinn, he goes like, "I'm Liam Neeson. I'm Liam Neeson."
Yeah, he keeps
It's a
saying,
lot.
I'm Liam Neeson. I'm Liam Neeson.
I loved it. It was so funny.
He also does when he shouts, because we kept Doug, think like Darkman, and so he would do the shouting, and I could just see Darkman just, Julie, take the fucking elephant.
So you're gonna hear and see that that two-parter. Those will be back in back-to-back weeks. So 1 week you'll get part 1, and then part 2 the following week. And that'll probably be our last Star Wars one for a while. We've done this will be 4 episodes of Star Wars stuff. Hopefully you guys will like this one. You guys wanted to see it, so I hope you check it out. We'll be back here very soon with another episode of the FanScription podcast, so make sure you subscribe to this feed and everything to get these episodes on either Apple or iTunes, whatever you get your podcasts on, or just check right back here on YouTube when these go up. So stay tuned for more episodes, and we'll talk to you guys very soon on another episode of the FanScription podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, Mr. J.